Hi friends, I am Rahul and today I want to draw your kind attention towards science. And today I want to concentrate and focus on physics because it is really important for us to understand these principles because the laws of physics is same and it applies across the universe. So previously I thought that I will discuss about the frontline discovery and more sci-fi things about physics, but later I choose that I should start from elementary physics in order to understand those things which I will discuss later in my videos. So science measures things. The same is true with the physics because physics has also categorized its own quantities in two types, that is called scalar quantities and vector quantities, in order to measure it. A scalar quantities has magnitude only and it can be given a numeric value, that is 5 kg, 10 kg and etc. is called scalar quantities. And vector quantities are those quantities which has a magnitude and also has a direction. So if we want to count those things, then we have to consider its direction also. Those things are classified in vectors. And these principles have been deduced by our forefathers in order to make our life more beautiful and comfortable. So it is really important for us to read these things. Let us start with the mechanics. Mechanics is actually the study of motion, and kinematics is the apparatus. That means the definitions, charts and other words and diagrams, whatever we deduce in order to develop a mental concept, that is called kinematics. So what is distance? Distance is actually a space covered by an object, moving object, that is called distance. But displacement is different. Displacement is a vector quantity. That means position changed by an object during its motion is called displacement. If you go 10 meters in forward direction, then you go right to 5 meters and again you come to 5 meters down in backward direction, then this diagonally placed position is called actually the displacement. Or the distance is the total space covered, that is called distance. And speed is actually distance covered in a given period of time is called speed, and velocity is the rate of change of position is called velocity, and acceleration is actually the rate of change of velocity is called acceleration. What is rate of change? Rate of change means over time period how it is changing, that is called rate of change within that given time. So now we understand distance, displacement and acceleration. So what is constant acceleration? If velocity is changing exactly same in every and each second, that is called constant acceleration. And if the velocity is changing unequally, that is called acceleration if it is in positive direction, and it may be in negative direction also, but that is actually negative acceleration. So now we understand displacement, distance, acceleration. So one thing that is very important to understand, that is called position time graph. If this goes straight with time and position, the slope is not changing, it is constant. And slope is, if you reduce two lines here and here, and those two lines you meet on y-axis, this change and this change, if you divide those things, it gives you slopes. And if it is constant, that is called, it has a constant velocity, and if it is changing, if the slope is changing, that is called accelerated motion. So now we understand what is slope. Slope is really important. If slope goes, velocity goes, and accelerated motion happens. And thereafter I want to discuss about a very good idea, what is called acceleration due to gravity and free fall. And here there is an amazing thing, that acceleration due to gravity, Earth has an acceleration due to gravity which is measured 9.8 meter per second square. That means it has its own gravity. So, and if something is coming in its gravitational position, it accelerated towards it, and if it is in free fall, that means there is no air resistance. So either an elephant will fall or a piece of paper will fall. Those two have the same acceleration, that is called 9.8 meter per second square. But if we consider the air friction, then the massive objects have more speed, because it depends on force and mass of the object. But if you will talk about why in free fall state, where there is no frictional force, either an elephant which has a higher mass or an ant will fall and accelerated at the same rate, because the force which is being used to accelerate that object, force is directly proportional to acceleration, while mass is inversely proportional to acceleration, because we know F equal to ma. So if the force will increase and also the mass will increase, those two will overcome its effects on acceleration. That's why in free fall state both have the same rate of acceleration. So now we have reduced these simple concepts. So I will discuss about Newton's laws of motion, and I will start from the third law of motion, which says that force comes in pairs. That means every action has equal and opposite reaction. That means if you have an interaction in two peoples or two objects, the force exerted by this object on this object has a direction toward this, and it is equal and opposite, because this object will create the same force on this object and the direction will be towards like this. So this is the third law of motion, and the first law of motion describes that everything and every object, if it is in a state of rest, it will be in rest, or if it is in uniform motion, it tries to stay in the same state until and unless there is an external that means imbalanced force acts upon it. So it is called also the law of inertia. Whatever is in motion, they don't want to change their own state, and this resistance is called the law of inertia. And the second laws of motion, force equal to mass into acceleration, and don't forget vector F, because the direction of force and the direction of acceleration will be in the same directions, and it says that force is directly proportional to acceleration while the mass is inversely proportional to acceleration. So now we understand Newton's laws of motions and those small things. So today I will not discuss the enlightened part like gravity and other things, but I will discuss in my videos. So try to keep up with me and try to understand these little principles, because it is very important to preserve and follow the path of given ideas that have been deduced by our forefathers and great scientists. Thank you for watching.